You're listening to Front of the Line with Jack Kilby, and now the conclusion of our conversation with Jack Kilby. What do we expect from Jack Kilby in the front line?
Man, hopefully playing a little more. I'm going to continue to be putting out footage from the studio for all these tunes because I have, I want to say 7 of the 10 tunes that we recorded. I have, like the full take on video, which is cool in this sort of Instagram era of creating digestible clips for the people to scroll on and trying to book some festivals. It's hard when you're vouching for yourself. You're kind of like, hi, I have a band and I'd really like to play. I really have, a little leverage other than that I know that we sound good. It's just, but it's just interesting to kind of start to navigate that scene and, hopefully try to play out some more, and bring the music to the people. Because it's one thing to listen to the record, but it's another thing to hear it live. After all, this is music that's supposed to be in the moment. So we'd like to create some new moments for people.
I just want to add to that because I think that the way you describe that, while accurate, may not be impactful to our listeners. People don't realize how hard that is. When you are the band leader, you're a musician, you got to make sure you're the stage manager, you're the producer, you're trying to do this tour and do this performance, and you're the person who's picking up the phone or sending out the email and trying to book the gig. Like, that's a lot of work. And by the time you actually sit down to play your drums, you're exhausted because it took so much to get you there, right? So I encourage anyone, seriously, if you have bands and you love them, support them. Go out, don't just stream, don't just double tap like you said on Instagram or check out their latest snap. Go and see them perform, because a lot of these bands do not have managers, they don't have booking agents, and they really, really need your support. Because they need to fill those seats. Because as you know, or maybe listeners you don't know, a lot of times bands are getting paid a percentage of the door. So that means if you aren't walking through the door, they're not getting paid.
No, thanks. And we're trying to take it some places. I mean, I want to be able to take the band overseas one day, And so I've got to just, like I said, each one reach one. That's what it is. Each one reach one. I was searching for that earlier.
Oh, that's what it was. I was like, I don't know. I didn't want to say anything because I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. And I don't want to say the wrong thing. And then someone says, hey, you did a sexual innuendo on the air, and that's not the way it goes. So I was just like, let me just shut up. Let me just shut up.
Each one reach one. And it's so important, to be able to, book it. There's just such disparity between the venues where you're able to make it work, where you don't lose a ton of money having a band that has 5 other people, and needing to be able to draw several hundred people, right? There's not very much in terms of middle ground,
right?
And a great way for new bands to get new listeners is playing at festivals, right? Because they're bringing a lot of the crowds. Like, sure, there are obviously always bands that sort of help drive sales and sort of what the festival's reputation becomes, but as a new artist, you sort of hope that there's going to be a festival out there that's going to be willing to take a chance on my band because of, that hopefully will make folks have a good time and it'll be good music. And so, but yeah, it's just interesting, man. And even in that, people are much less, of course I think it's great, right? But, if it would be a different story if I had a manager or a booking agent who was vouching on my behalf. It's a completely different look, So that's something that I've thought about. I haven't even, really done any serious work, but, just a matter of how, when, who's the right booking agent, just to try to get, what other things do I need to have in place before having the booking agent is even worth my time, right?
Right.
Because it'd be like if you hired a publicist if you didn't have anything to promote. You just want to make sure that, you're ready to take these steps when they come there. So, yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. Hopefully I'll be writing some music too, over the next few months. I've got my studio set up really nice now. It's funny that I just was delivered these awesome panels, that I got made, so that I've got all my inputs in the front, and I can do my flex routing with a little patch bass to start recording, little demos of tunes, and hopefully producing just some other, songs as well, and trying to collaborate with folks. Like I've talked about before, it's just awesome now, and what we're able to do with collaborating with people over the internet. I can record drums and whatever else here and send it to someone else for the bass, and send it to someone else, to see if they've got any bars for it, right?
You're right there in Alexandria. So
yep.
That's like a stone's throw from a Charleston or a stone's throw from a DC or that kind of thing. The Crab Shack studio, is that a studio where, if let's say I wanted to record a single, could I come and track some music there? Are you open, or is it a closed studio? What's your situation with that?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. We are open for business. We sure are. Got the license and everything. So yeah, I mean, we've got plenty of instruments and ways in which you're, to track you for your song. I'm actually feeling very fortunate in that tomorrow I've got a client coming to record drums and piano. I got my piano tuned maybe 2 weeks ago, and I moved it in the room somewhere where it sounds better and it'll stay a little more in tune. And so I've got them coming to track tomorrow, and then I've got a friend, Keith Butler, who's recording his trio here on Sunday. And that's actually the first group that I will track live here at the Crab Shack. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really thankful that these people, entrust me with their vision, to be able to carry it out, especially as a, humble home studio. But, feel good about what I'm doing. It's a lot of fun for me because I get to just, once I set up all the mics, and sort of be tedious in that regard, I largely get to just sit back and listen. Once they start recording, especially with jazz, I'm not doing anything to make his drums sound like anything other than what he wants them to sound like.
Right.
Because he wants to hear what his ride cymbal sounds like. He doesn't want you to compress the shit out of it, and make her do all this other sculpting. It's like, no. He wants to hear his ride cymbal. So that's cool. And, I'm hoping that I can just keep that going. And, so if anybody needs anything recorded, come on over to the Crab Shack. We'll take care of you. Located right in the heart of Del Rey. We're very close to Reagan Airport and Washington, D.C., like you said. So hoping that I can do a lot more of that this year.
And I also know that you still tutor. Do you tutor from the Crab Shack? Do you tutor remotely? How does that work for you?
So, yeah, I've got private lessons that I teach. I teach some students here on Sundays. And then I teach around the corner at the Rock of Ages Music School. And I teach on a variety of instruments: drums, trumpet, piano, guitar, euphonium, trombone. I just got a banjo, so I just need to learn a little bit more.
Oh, this
I need
is
to
going
maybe
to be
take some
fun summer with the
I know,
banjo.
right? I'm gonna do some picking on my porch.
Right.
Some porch picking.
So we gotta get you some days work plug tobacco, so you can have that, and a nice straw hat, rocking chair for the porch.
Exactly. It was cool. And so, yeah, for those folks, hey, if it's a matter of just not having the instrument, we've got it. If you got the player, we've got it. And in some cases, I can be the player, but not all the cases. But
yeah, that's pretty cool because it makes you I'm loving this because it makes you a full service. Like a one-stop shop, right? You got a guy who can tutor you on several instruments, play the instruments for you for the session. And that's really good because a lot of times when you have groups that are maybe, duos or trios and they need extra players, it's nice to have a place where you can go, and it may not be in the live performance version, but you still want it on the record. It's good to have someone who can bring that to the record. So I think that makes you a value-added business. I think that's great, Jack. Love what you're doing. And I love the fact that you thought about it from the perspective of not just the album, but the entire, dare I say, enterprise of Crab Shack and what it could be. And you're setting yourself up to do that. I think that's great. Right?
It sure is becoming an enterprise. Yeah. I mean, just with all the different facets that one has to have, right? You know,
Right.
whether it's the publishing company, the record label, the studio. I mean, you're slicing the pie in a number of different ways.
Well, I had that conversation with a rapper before who said, "You can't make money in the music business. You're not making money in the music business." And I'm like, I make money in the music business. I make money in the audio business. I make money in the voice business. You can't do that. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, bro, if you're not doing it, then you're not doing it right. Right? You don't, if you don't have major funding, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You've got to be able to diversify, right? I come from the old school of when someone says, can you sing? Yes. Can you choreograph? Yes. Can you dance? Yes. Can you act? Yes. And if I can't, I will by the time you need me. You know, like we were just, that's the school I was trained in, right? So I get it. I see where you're coming from. I'm like, you were trained in the old school way of there isn't a no. It's a not yet. And so you're just working through and making it happen. Kudos to you, bro. And
right. And it's I'm going to figure it out, you know,
right.
And like
right.
The trial by fire, man. I mean, I can really credit Mike Mossman a lot with that too, up at Queens College, you know, the great trumpet player and arranger. Like
Absolutely.
His arranging class was very much the most I think the most stark version of that possible, because he would just ask us to write for like these wild instrumentations that I'd never written before on instruments, you know, that I'm not sure. I know what the hell a French horn is, but I don't know what range the French horn sounds the strongest. I don't really know what, you know, like what the top of the range is, you know, in terms of what's difficult for a player to play, you know, all sorts of how to write for strings, you know, which strings you get the double stops on, right? Like, I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff. And that grad school to me was really like that a lot, because like, yeah, at that point you're dealing with professionals who learned that very same way. I mean, if anybody who saw the Quincy Jones documentary can attest that he learned the exact same way, and it's needless to say, or no doubt, you know, why he's as great as he is, because he really learned, you know, by doing
right.
and having to just do it.
Right. I mean, it was trial by fire, especially in the place when you're speaking about someone like Quincy Jones, because there were so many roadblocks to him becoming who he is today. But I think
of course,
the thing I love about your training is you were forced to do things that you may one day have to do. And I think that to me is a good, solid education. You may never, ever, ever look at a French horn, but if you're ever in a situation where you need to score for one, you know how.
Right.
That's real. That's just, you can't take that stuff for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me, what's Jack Kilby's words of wisdom?
If there's one thing that I've kind of learned from this whole thing, it's like, if you feel like something is hard, then see if you can step back for a second and see if you're like making it hard, or just take a second to like let something unfold. You know, I think a lot of what I deal with is sort of impatience in wanting to be doing a lot of the things that I'm not doing yet, but sort of like I want to be doing my goals right now, right? You know, I want to be in Europe right now on the road playing somewhere tonight, but I'm not. So just being patient about that. And like the one thing that's been great for me that I've been able to get back to is doing yoga again. Like I got the surgery, so I'm feeling better now, and I'm able to stretch and exercise. And to be honest, just like stretching again and finding that place of like, you don't have to, you know, to find the pose when you first get to it. You know, it's something that one of my favorite yoga instructors once said, you know, you can settle into it. And I actually did yoga while my piano was getting tuned, which was wild, because I'm listening to him ease into the pitch. He doesn't shoot for it right away. He really took his time as he went through each note and, you know, made sure that he was careful. He didn't just immediately yank it into place, you know. And for me, at least, like whether it's opening my hips, you know, my legs, my back, you know, kind of allowing myself a second to go at my own pace, you know, and that it's okay to go slow. So especially because there are certain things in the album where, like, I was